Probably going to be spending the next 2 weeks writing a set bar clamp and documenting the process of writing it so we can use it as an example for other bar clamps. So hopefully I'll have that to show off by the time Hong Kong rolls around.
So that's very cool. So at that point, we would basically, after that set, we would be basically able or capable of doing workloads on top of that.
Yeah. I mean, right now it's capable of handling, as long as you don't need to configure the RAID, the BIOS, or use IPMI, it should be capable of handling workloads on real hardware.
Cool. And then what would stop us from actually using the IPMI stuff and all of that would obviously be the need to convert those things over to engine style and do various other things to them, right?
Yeah, we would need to port them over to Crowbar 2 style and do some rewrites to make all the chef recipes work in attribute-driven mode.
Yeah, let's create a list of all of the little things we need to do to get it in parity with
that's
Crowbar.
why
It's in Jira.
That's why I sent the email out to Arkady.
Yep, I saw that. That's why I responded to it.
Yeah.
I'm also
That is
creating.
a complete list. Great.
I'm also creating an
Not
Etherpad
list, but
for notes.
Alright, then, go ahead, sorry.
okay, what's that Rob that I heard talking in the background?
Hey, Victor. Yep.
You did. So, a question to Suse, as you guys have, are close to or have released the piece of, Cloud 2, basically. So, are you guys obviously working on your next release, or already doing so, planning for it? What's the situation on your end?
Sorry, we have to run to the microphone every time we want to speak. Our team meeting this week has been really planning next steps in the short term and long term. So we're kind of firming that up at the moment, but we have some preliminary ideas about what the next release is going to look like.
Okay. And is it, do you guys roughly know the timeline already or no?
Like 6 months.
Okay. So with that, seeing as we, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it'll be, probably within half a year, but might be sooner or later, something in that kind of order of magnitude.
Yeah, okay. So, does that mean you guys would be, potentially willing to actually pick up the 2.0 stuff with your next, release?
No, it's not going to happen for the next one.
Okay. It's just, feel like there's a reason for that, or I assume there is.
I guess it. Well, I'm really like the right people to be discussing that are not here. I think it's probably a timing thing of just like how. When do you guys think the OpenStack bar clamps are going to be, fully ported and working? I mean, it sounds to me like that's not going to happen early enough to make it time with our release, but I'm guessing.
Well, we'll certainly have to get a lot of experience over the next several, I'm guessing by the end of the year we can probably get you very good numbers on how long it takes to do a conversion of bar clamps and all that kind of stuff. We know little about the effort, at least as far as I know. Maybe Victor and Rob know more about
Simon, sorry to interrupt you for a second. I agree with you about that. However, there's two nuances that are worth noting. One is that we do know that the bar clamps, the primary change in the bar clamps is switching into attribute injection, which is a pretty concrete task. We've been including some cleanups when we do that, and that makes it take a little bit more scope. But the other change that's a little bit more concerning is just that it will be forking them. So, Adam, I understand this, and I think at the summit we need to talk through how we want to continue to keep the bar clamps in sync, if we can even keep them in sync. Because as we switch to attribute injection, they won't work for Crowbar 1 and will effectively be forking the OpenStack bar clamps. And so the timing of doing that is going to depend on where they are, where they sit, where Crowbar is. There's a lot of components to factor in for that. But that's the thing to. We can't discuss it now because there just isn't enough information, but we do need to start thinking through the divergence, the component of divergence at that point.
Right. I mean, yeah, really, I mean, Vansel's not here. He's probably the best guy to talk about the long-term planning and timescales and things, but we're continuing to actively work on the upstream cookbooks. That's something that we can say at this point.
Okay, well, those Crowbar 2 is designed specifically to be able to enable the upstream cookbooks to work. So if you're working on upstream cookbooks, in addition to working on the Crowbar cookbooks, then you're actually more aligned with the Crowbar 2 efforts than you may be showing at that point.
Yeah, that was kind of my thoughts on the initial plan of attack for getting OpenStack workloads up and running on Crowbar 2 would be to start with using the upstream cookbooks that are already pretty well primed for running in an attribute injected world, and then start porting over the enhancements that we've made and the functionality differences from the Crowbar 1 OpenStack cookbooks into the Crowbar 2 cookbooks.
That's a really interesting discussion. I think that's a good discussion to have at the hackathon.
It totally is.
Definitely makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure any of us are going to be able to make that that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm actually personally not going to be in Hong Kong even, but I think several of us had already booked travel before that surfaced. So I don't know. Maybe we could have somebody there, but I would need to check. It's it may be unlikely or at least difficult.
Understood.
All right. So, well, thank you very much, Victor. So it sounds like we're going to make a good effort here over the next several days and 2 weeks or so. And with that, why don't you give us an update on Roxy Arcadi?
Sure. So, Roxy is stable. We finalized all of the pull requests merging from the Pebbles into the Roxy and from various other places. So, as of yesterday, we started a transition to the Havana bits. You have seen one pull request submitted yesterday, which only deal with Crowbar YAML files across all of the bar clamps to point out to the current latest repos for the Havana bits. I would expect as the OpenStack releases of Havana, those pointers will be updated because right now they're not pointing to the Havana stable. But that is enough for us to start the conversion of the current code base onto the Havana bits. So expect flurry of the activities on that front. My expectation that the code base will be unstable for a week or two until we iron out all of the dependencies and all of the lower hanging fruit. And the goal is before the Havana summit to get it operational. DAO will concentrate on the current platform, which is Ubuntu. If anybody would like to also make changes required for all of the other platforms to make sure it works across all the platforms, all of the pull requests will be welcome. My expectation of the first thing would be, iron out all of the dependencies on the libraries or on the packages, change on and so forth. I would expect it will be quite a bit of time, maybe 2 weeks to iron that out. We'll see, we'll probably merge that pull request which switches to Havana bit today, and from that point on things will be unstable. We do definitely know that we need to change all of the quantum stuff to neutron, both with naming of the, all of the files, but changing the UOI to be quantum versus neutron versus quantum, I think is not very high on the priority list right now. I think let's get the code stable and operational, and then we will deal with the UOI changes.
I would suggest that we hold off on those changes and do it as a Crowbar 2 as we bring things into Crowbar 2. That we should target using the functional names for Crowbar 2.
When you say changes to in the Crowbar 2, what exactly do you mean?
That renaming bar clamps to say that we shouldn't call it neutron, it really should be OpenStack networking. It's the functional name.
Oh yeah, I fully agree with that. But as I said, renaming of the bar clamp is not the goal right now. The goal is to get all of the all of the bar clamps operational on the Havana bits. Renaming of the bar clamps, changing the UOI to be named appropriately. This is, secondary order of business.
Let's take that to the list, Arkady. I think that it creates risk, and people need to decide if they want to tolerate the risk for the change, and it's really an email discussion I think would be appropriate. If that's all right with you.
Changes to what? Right now, the Roxy, as soon as we point to the Havana bits, Roxy doesn't work.
And no, changing the bar clamp names for OpenStack is.
That's not, as I said, this is not on the current sprint. That's the sprint after, and I think we should discuss what the name should be, and that's not on the first order of business right now.
I agree. Adam, is that cool?
Sorry, I was just talking to Dirk about what we wanted to mention next.
That's fine.
Can you repeat the question?
Just we're not planning to change the names of the Crowbar 1 bar clamps for OpenStack at this point. We'll discuss it on the list.
Yeah, Ralph says it's fine.
To be precise, the goal for the current sprint or two, depending upon how fast we move, is to make sure that the current bar clamps operate on the Havana bits, and then renaming the bar clamps to be more better suited, and changing the UOI to match that is secondary work, which we can do after the summit or during the summit.
Yep.
Okay.
I just remembered, actually, there is one thing that we're pretty keen to push upstream as soon as is reasonably possible. It's not an emergency, but the Bootstrap work that we did on the interface, which we currently have as a large bunch of separate patches with, converting the styling and stuff to Bootstrap and then adding our branding on top. We'd love to get the Bootstrap stuff upstream, with the goal of that being just a sort of generic, clean way of branding that anyone
Bootstrap? What is?
Is that so? There was a fixes which we have done, which were done, I don't know, several months ago when we had a discussion on this front before, where we allowed to have a full configuration file for the entire deployment, which specifies the branding and default configuration for all of the bar clamps and stuff like that. Is that following in that direction, or is it a completely orthogonal set of changes?
It's different. I think it's about sort of revamping the HTML and CSS, right? Yeah, our designer is nodding. So that's, yeah, I think there's quite a significant amount of work and improvements that we have, and at the moment it's causing us a bit of pain because we have to continually rebase this large series of patches as new pull requests get merged. So yeah, the sooner we can sort of minimize the amount of rebase work that we have to do on a regular basis, the better. And obviously that would be hopefully in everyone's advantage is to use to reuse that CSS work as well.
Can you give us a preview at some point of what the new CSS work is, what it looks like? Or is it what we've seen as far as the SUSE Cloud 2.0?
Right. It's basically mostly what you have in your product today, right?
Yeah.
What
so we didn't send a pull request
that as a pull request?
Can do. I think we deliberately were holding off because you had your release thing and we did, and
if Rob is the ultimate caller on this, I don't see a reason with having improved CSS and if UI work submitted to the, it'll probably be some thrashing until everything works smoothly again. But yeah, do you guys see any problem with that, Rob?
I don't. I'm assuming it won't break the product when those pulls come in, and we'll need to watch that. I would suggest that we're very focused on trying to get Havana demoable at the summit, and unless there's an urgent change, those will, anything else will be a second priority for most of us, except for that note.
This is Ken, the designer from SUSE. So what I've done is implemented the Bootstrap framework in Crowbar directly. Our 2.0 product naturally just has our branding because we'd had time issues to not be able to do both. But I've also started, and I'm quite far along, creating a generic, actually I just based it on the Dell branding package, the way the Dell stuff looks now. So I've gone through and created a generic look and feel for that. So it should all work. It's just a bunch of huge patches. That's the big thing. I think that's the issue.
And it's specific to one. It doesn't. Have you ported it to 2 at all?
All my work actually for that has been on 2.0.
Oh, okay. 2.0 we can take big pull requests pretty easily at this point. That's less disruptive.
Be careful that you don't mix up the two. 2.0 SUSE Cloud. 2.0
thank you, Simon. I appreciate that.
I wasn't expecting to be able to get the Bootstrap in before Crowbar 2.0.
Right. So the Bootstrap is a change in the Crowbar 2.0.
If that would be wanted, we are going to keep it for our SUSE products, but whether or not it goes upstream is the issue.
Is it worth just explaining what this Bootstrap code does that Crowbar currently doesn't do?
Yeah, what it is it's a very confidence framework for HTML and CSS that does placement and display values. So it's got a grid system. It's really, really complicated. And what it gives you, what we really get out of it is you get a CSS and HTML framework that's developed different versions, and the JavaScript as well. So it's got a JavaScript framework as well with it. Whether or not we take that is another question, but it's all modular and responsive.
So this is the Bootstrap.
So you can use
This is the Bootstrap that came from Twitter?
that we're working on now.
Here's Bootstrap. This is the Twitter Bootstrap framework?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay. Very cool. Okay.
If you have it in a place where you can pull it into Crowbar 2, it's actually probably the easiest time is we're in the easier times to take that level of disruption on Crowbar 2. So I mean that.
Yeah, I started on it, and then because of our 2.0 project, I had to kind of put it aside for a while, so I need to start doing it again, but we're really close to having everything done. So we can definitely look at that in the next month or so.
Okay. Yeah, because we're starting to ramp more and more stuff in Crowbar 2, and we're building UIs and we're building tests, and I would suspect that some of these changes are going to break tests and things like that. So I would ask I would welcome the upstream pull on that. The sooner the better.
Okay, great.
All right, that sounds cool. And then, does anybody else have something? I would move on to the finalization items, most likely. Which basically, I think there was a bunch of discussions about the mailing list, splitting the mailing list, and so on and so forth. The latest was that it was, I think people are kind of hesitant to split the list because they're not not big enough yet. Actually, I made the suggestion of splitting the list several months ago, and my team also came to the same conclusion. There were some concerns about questions not being answered, or people not asking questions appropriately. I don't personally, and others have stated that splitting the list would not actually help that effort too much. I feel like the lists, splitting them or not splitting them, I kind of fall on the side of not splitting them at the moment. And then there's obviously a separate discussion of whether or not we switch away from the mailman list that we currently have on the Dell server, or go to something else, which I think is a separate discussion which we should bring back up when we are actually ready to split the lists. Does anybody feel strongly about this one way or another? I'd like to voice their opinion about it. Okay, well if nobody feels too strongly, then I would probably say that splitting the list is off the table at the moment. And I said that we currently have like 450 subscribers. I think it's probably something that we can revisit once we have 600, or when the volume goes up. We don't really have more than, there's not a day where we have more than 30 or 40 messages that's the high end, right? So on the list, so I think it's perfectly fine too.
I think we may want to revisit that around the time frame that Crowbar 2.0 release-based product is more clearly defined.
Since there is a lot of, since all of the pull requests are going on the reflector, so cleaning up and separating the discussion on the architecture stuff, the user experience, including all the question and whatever the problems they're bumping into, from kind of daily grunt of the work of fixing the bugs and merging the changes into the thing and keeping track of where we are. Separating those activities, it's not a bad idea. Do we need a separate reflector for that, or we can use some kind of nomenclature in the title of the email
I don't think all that traffic goes to the Crowbar list though. I think it just goes directly to the Crowbar people who are in the Crowbar repos archive.
Yeah, that helps control exactly which emails you get.
Right. We're not talking about 1,500 emails. That's the concern that people have. But that's not much we can do about it other than setting up filters locally.
No, and you can subscribe.
Or adjusting your settings accordingly.
Yeah, you have personal settings for those. Right, quite right.
Right.
All right, so
anyway, but we will revisit this is where we stand as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and some of the triggers are volume or subscriber count is what you're saying?
Right. I think volume and subscriber count are two things. And I said 600 subscribers, I can come up with a volume number as well. But at the moment we have never exceeded 40 messages a day. So I would probably say if once we have in a month, we have like 4 or 5 days where there's more than 100 messages on the list, then that would probably make sense. But again, we'll probably visit it. That's all I wanted to say about it. I just wanted to come to closure on this to make sure that we have everybody round and round on it. Okay, and then Rob, do you want to talk about the Hong Kong community meeting real quick?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Although I'm going to miss it in person because I have a board meeting at the same time. So Uncle is, I think, our lead on that. Simon, you have a conflict, and some of our other Dell leadership does. I can't make it either. But what we've done is we've reserved a larger room at the Hong Kong hotel for the day before the summit. This is effectively the last day of the hackathon. Remember, the hackathon scope is really experts, pros, and people really writing code for Crowbar. And so the last day, we want to showcase the work we've done in the hackathon and also showcase the work that's been going on for Crowbar in general, specifically around OpenStack, but I think Crowbar also more broadly. So we're putting together an agenda of topics that we think the community would be interested in, and we have actually a little bit of an open forum where we'd like to invite, if people have items and they're there that are Crowbar and OpenStack related or Crowbar specific, to get on the agenda, be able to present what's going on, and talk about that. And then, of course, we're asking on the other side for people to help publicize this, and make people realize that we're talking about what our OpenStack deployments are and what our capabilities are, and show off really how far we've come. We've gotten quite a bit. The HA pieces are coming in. Those got posted. We should actually discuss that briefly here. A lot of the Crowbar 2 work should be in alpha at that point, ready for showcasing. Havana bits, Arkady believes we're going to be able to do the core of the demo. The Docker team is committed to be there and talk about Docker and some of the work that they're trying to collaborate on for Crowbar and Docker and OpenStack Havana. So there's quite a bit of enthusiasm. I don't think we have anything dedicated yet for the SUSE Cloud pieces. We'd love if there's somebody available that day to help showcase that. And then, anybody else in the community who wants to come and talk about those things, they certainly can. Simon, was there anything about that I should add or extend?
No, I think this is good. Okay. I just wanted to. Do you happen to know how we're going to be advertising this?
My understanding is through through various blogs, Twitter feeds, Crowbar mailing list definitely, and I think we're even going to take it to the OpenStack list. And there is a glossy single-page brochure, not a brochure, but it's basically a single-page description that we can post. We should post to the Crowbar list and encourage people to repeat. This is one of those funny things where it's opportunistic. If people have come in a day early and they want to see what's going on, we're offering it as a chance to do that and to meet the team. We're not expecting 500 people. We're expecting a small crowd, but usually we try and record these things and make them available later. So even if people aren't physically available, we often create a pretty large following footprint on this by recording it and making the sessions available, and I expect us to do that too.
Okay. Yeah, so the topic of SUSI attendance, I guess you guys are kind of winning and hawing around it, which is fine. It sounds like you might not be able to attend. I think it would probably, if you can't attend that one thing, it might be useful to make an effort to meet with Victor in person while you're there. That way Victor can really quickly do an expert-to-expert knowledge transfer with somebody on your team, just in case you actually want to go and contribute to the effort in one way or another. I think it might be valuable to do a face-to-face, expert-to-expert kind of meeting.
And we are expecting to have a birds of a feather Crowbar session, probably one specific, depending on progress, specific to Crowbar 2 during the summit, and we'll go through the progress and where things are with that. There is the call to action though for the community day before the summit to and everybody on the call, we would like help publicizing it. The more any publicity we get helps bring people, but it also helps establish the work that we're doing in the community and the relevance for OpenStack. So it's useful to make sure we get a bigger footprint on that.
And in general, I'll probably be spending a decent chunk of time in the developer lounge at the summit. So if you don't have any other time to talk about Crowbar 2, just walk down to the developer lounge and I'll probably be there.
We are planning to record a lot of the Crowbar 2 sessions and things like that during the hack, and make those, then push those up. So a lot of the content will be available.
Okay, cool. Well, then unless there's anything else anybody has on their mind would like to talk about, then
There was one other item.
None?
There was one other item. I keep blanking on what it was. I said it, but what did I say?
I have one too.
Well, you're remembering that somebody else had an item. Let's
Okay.
bring that up, and maybe by that time you'll remember it.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so we were discussing yesterday about Crowbar smoke testing, and I think we pretty much decided that we wanted to do some work on one of our Jenkins instances that we already have running, and set up automatic smoke testing of pull requests that come in. And ideally, we would have that running, doing the DevTool-oriented smoke tests on Ubuntu, and also some other kind of smoke test, probably the MK Cloud one that we have for testing our products internally, which is a similar kind of set of integration tests, I think, and run that against LES 11. The idea was to have the results of both those smoke tests for every pull request automatically appended to the GitHub pull request, so that it would make it very clear. It would just get us away from the situation where we're having to spend a lot of time manually initiating smoke tests on pull requests, and also, to get away from this obvious problem of not knowing whether, knowing that pull request works on one platform but not another platform, each way round. if we just have both platforms covered automatically for every pull request, then that should save a lot of time and pain for everybody. So that's something we're hoping to start work on reasonably soon.
I really believe we're going to see an expansion of the number of platforms that we need to make sure that we can run on, so I see that as a valuable initiative.
I greatly applaud SOC effort on that. That would be very, very helpful for the community.
So on that note, I suppose I just wanted to check quickly that we weren't stepping on toes of any pre-existing or ongoing or planned work in that field. I know, Victor has already developed this CI subcommand of the dev tool, which I guess we could leverage.
Replace it with something sane, please.
Okay, so do I take that from
I have-
to mean we're not planning to do anything with that?
I have no whatsoever to that. Yeah,
Okay.
I can declare
enough to just do the use dev pull requests for listing the existing pull requests, and then just checking out to one before you run the smoke test on it, and that's pretty much all we need, I think.
Yeah.
I can declare affirmative that there are no corns that we need to be afraid of standing on in this whole automation infrastructure. We want to do what's right for everyone. We want to do it efficiently. We want to accelerate and really promote the work that is going on. We're delighted with the work that is going on. We just want to grow the community and grow the interest in it. And I believe the more automation we can get in there, the better it is for the project as a whole.
Cool, thanks. So yeah, we'll keep you updated with that work. And yeah, hopefully you guys will find that useful in terms of, if you submit a pull request, then you'll get some pretty quick feedback on what effect that may or may not have on the our integration tests when they run on SLES.
That's excellent. I believe that there's still, it may be that we ultimately have duplicate systems running, ideally using the same code base. So as long as the work is available for collaboration, would be my request, so that we can. I'd love if the worst thing that we have is the same test is run on two different sites and we get 2 votes, 2 + 1s or 2 - 1s, then I can live with that as a consequence. I don't want us to have divergent test infrastructure, but so hopefully we can collaborate. If we do, that's still 2 systems voting is still favorable to me over none.
Absolutely. The more testing, the better. I mean, if later on we'll have a thing that we have too much testing, that's a much easier problem to deal with than having none.
Yeah.
Unless they disagree, and then we don't have quorum, whereas with no votes we have quorum.
Well, that means that there's a problem somewhere, and that one system coded and the other did not. Let's have that discussion, which is actually productive.
We will use wetware to break the tie. I suspect.
Right. I was only
I know. Always fall back to wetware. Good point. No, we're enthusiastic about that. We've been trying to promote our internally our own system doing that work, or recover it. When you say the smoke, you're talking about the smoke that actually goes all the way through and does the deployments, right? It not just.
So in the case of the dev tool-driven smoke, yes, and in fact R1 does something similar as well. Yeah, I mean it gets to the point of actually provisioning instances in the OpenStack cloud.
That's what our smoke ultimately does, or did the same, get all the way to the end. Ideally, runs Tempest and reports Tempest results. Good. Hopefully hopefully in a year we'll be talking about not having sufficient hardware to test the volume of pulls. That's the problem I want to have. All right. And Arcadia, I haven't remembered what my point was, so it'll wait, or I'll bring it up on the list.
I'll bring it up on the list. That's no big deal.
All right. Well then, I guess we got it covered, right?
All right.
Are we gonna have? Are we gonna have a?
That was a one more thing event, wasn't it?
Sorry. Are we gonna have a design? So in 2 weeks, I'm looking at the calendar. I'm just trying to think through the next. Set of
I would think that the one when you'll be traveling to Hong Kong probably should be scrapped, and the one at the summit also.
Oh, the one at the summit might be a useful one to do on the 31st. Because
the timing
the timing doesn't work.
I don't think we have any conflict with the summit in any way, shape, or form.
Except that it will be in the middle of the night.
The 31st, the timing on the 31st we need to
No,
adjust.
I mean, the summit isn't taking, unless, okay, so it's the 17th, the next one is on the 30th, actually. I don't think anybody's traveling at that point.
So
Recovering from jet lag is more like it.
Right. So what we might want to do is the Crowbar hack is the first, second, third. It would be really helpful to find a time on the 31st where we will be in Hong Kong but recovered or pretend. Actually, can we do this? Can we move it to the 1st to find a time that works across time zones if we can?
But it's not going to happen. That's the problem. So, Rob, look at the calendar. The time zone between Hong Kong and Boston is just 12 hours.
Okay, so let me suggest this then. That means that we're going to skip the next planning session. That the Crowbar, the hack will do its own plan, probably a daily plan and review. And then
that should be posted, and we should elicit comments on that, so that as day rolls to day, we have feedback as well.
I would hope we do.
We don't have to discuss it on the phone. Let's just come up with something, discuss it on the email. We'll send out a plan from there.
Okay.
That's reasonable. Yep.
And then no design meeting next week. Or should we do a Crowbar? Do we need something then? We're doing hacks. So. All right. So there's basically nothing for the next meetings. We're not doing the next sprint. Okay. That sounds fine. That's all. That's all.
There's something. If we need to, we can. Why don't we do some compromise and we basically the day or two before the Wednesday meeting and Thursday meeting, poll on Reflector if there is any issues to discuss on face-to-face. Well,
okay.
on the call.
And I'm counting on.
Then we'll cancel it.
Right. I'm counting on you, Arcadia, I guess, to be giving out Havana updates about in that week, so we know the status of the Havana bets on Roxy. Is that?
Yep. Okay. I will do a weekly update.
Excellent. That's the only work I'd see us needing to coordinate specifically.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Take it easy, everybody.